Oh,
So that must be hockey, huh?
yeah, it's ice hockey.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't follow that because I don't like watching it on TV because I can't follow the puck. So
Yeah, you have a good vision to see that puck. That's true.
Yeah, but there's loads of people here who are actually crazy about it. I guess I've never seen such a huge crowd.
uh,
So
I'm here in Cleveland, and we won the basketball thing like 2 years, 3 years ago.
mhm,
And man, over millions of people went downtown.
yeah,
So no.
yeah. They made the parade today during 11 o'clock in the morning, so it wouldn't interfere with the rush hour. But I understand there's still people down there, in the heart of the city.
There's 70,000 people there.
How
Oh
many?
yeah,
70,000.
70, yeah.
Oh,
well, whatever floats your boat.
Well, the reports of Metro, because I just checked that. I didn't go in today because I work in the heart of all of that.
Yeah.
And the reports on Metro were that by 5 o'clock, an additional 187,000 folks had ridden Metro.
In addition
wow.
to the 300.
Yeah. In other words, from yesterday and today, it was saying there was an extra 187,000 people that had ridden Metro today. So
Yeah.
Why would that be to go to the celebration for the cats?
Yeah. No, and it was a nice day too, so that was very fortunate. So it's good that there's some good news occasionally. I know, actually around here, it was more important than the summit business with Kim Jong-un. They're all saying, it's kind of cynical. So anyway, we just have to hope for the best.
You should ride the commuter train in Mumbai during rush hour. It's unbelievable.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really, just to get out at your station, I used to take off my glasses, my watch, and it's like a rugby match. So you kind of put your head down and you kind of like, everyone's at the door. And as soon as the doors open, everyone just pushes out and you got people pushing in to come in. It's just unreal. I had a friend once, his shoe came off.
Oh no, say goodbye to that.
It was in the train, so he ran down alongside the train that was pulling out of the station, hoping someone would find it and throw it out the window, and they did.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, it's just really, anyway.
Wow.
But one of the things that I, looking at, reading what Ramakant had to say this week was the idea that, there is a level where you watch the river flow by with whatever is in it, good, bad, whatever, just the whole show, basically. The whole dream as it's flowing by. But he said eventually so basically it's watching the thoughts that flow by, but eventually the thinker itself disappears or dissolves. And that's kind of like, to me, like the real key thing to have happen. The thinker has to go. I'm tired of watching thoughts flow by. So the thinker, that's the dissolution of the thinker is really, he said that at the advanced stage, that's what really will take place. So,
well,
and
again,
just,
thinker is just identification with the thoughts.
Yeah.
Thoughts flow by, and there's a thinker created because attention is put on a flowing thought, and rather than allow it to flow by, it's like, ooh, the identification of this is my thought, or this has something to do with me. All these other thoughts I can allow to come and go, but this particular thought is me. There's something that I need to know. I can't just let this thought flow by, and that's just not true. And mantra keeps that from being. The thinker is just, that's the identification.
The
I
identification.
am thinking these thoughts. And eventually these thoughts, when you don't pay attention to them anymore, they cease. They just kind of, because there's nothing that is relating to the thoughts. Thoughts may be flowing in nature, but you've so totally not looked at it, just like a fan in the background. You might listen to a fan and you hear the fan going, but then as you begin talking to people in the room and all that, the fan just kind of goes to the background. It's still there, but there's no attention paid on this fan anymore because your attention is different. And in this state, it would be your attention remains with yourself to self, and you don't allow it to go out to create a thinker thinking thoughts.
Yeah. Yes, identification, or at least picking up the thought, basically, taking the touch of it.
Yeah.
That's the thinker.
Yeah, there's no separate entity called a thinker.
Right, yeah.
No, the thinker is created through attention and
Yeah.
activating a thought by it's my thought, or this is an important thought for me. But if there's no me, there's no I am somebody else, then there's no activation of a thought because no thought can be about you. And again, that goes right back to the automatic discrimination of remaining with my formless presence. And this thought is about something in form. So therefore, I'm removed from this thought automatically. I don't have to pay attention to a thought that's about the form state because I'm formless in my true nature.
It does seem at times that thoughts do actually cease.
Yeah, because you just stop paying attention to them. They're still there, but like we just talked about, the fan. There's a fan going in the room, and it's making, even the fans that go back and forth, click, 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 click. If you just sit in a room by yourself and listen to that, you'll pay attention to the fan. You may try to ignore the fan, no. But as your attention is drawn to something else, you're speaking and listening and all this, the fan fades to the background. Same with the thoughts. When you're paying attention inwardly to yourself, the self, the thoughts are still there, the fan is still going, but there's no attention paid to those thoughts.
Sometimes it seems
Therefore,
like
they don't exist.
sometimes it seems like they don't even form. They don't even have a chance to form or something.
Because you, the selfless self, these thoughts are arising on your spontaneous presence, and when you stop paying attention to them, they're not there. If you stop paying attention to something, again, the example of the fan. If I'm paying attention to my conversation, I'm no longer paying attention to the fan. So it fades. It's like white noise. And the same with thoughts. The thoughts just kind of dissolve because you're not paying attention to them. But you could, of course, stop yourself and sit there and start to pay attention to something because you'll say, okay, these thoughts, this is about walking the dog or something. Oh, this is a thought about something very important. It needs my direct attention. Then I am somebody else paying attention to a passing thought, activating a thinker and a thinking process of mind, ego, intellect. This thought is important to me. And usually it's always thoughts about something after the action or preceding an action where you're having a fear of, oh, I hope this doesn't go wrong or something like that. And again, there's an I am somebody else. But discrimination, spontaneous conviction, when you know yourself in a real sense, and the mind can only present thoughts in form to you, the formless. And it just won't make sense. Like, okay, I know myself in a real sense. I'm the knower of this sense of presence, formlessly knowing everything is appearing on this presence. So that is appearing on this presence is twice removed because this presence is, like we talked about, the perfume of my existence. It's just allowing me to know I exist when I'm using body form. And I know, okay, this sense of presence that I'm the knower of, there you go. But this is occurring on that spontaneous presence, which is not myself, nor has anything to do with me. And then that's when Maharaj says you're untouched with the worldly activities because they're still occurring, but you're not You're no longer touched by these. They're twice removed. You're not taking them so seriously or so importantly. You're doing what needs to be done and moving on. But you're not trying to grab or acquire anything from a passing thing.
Yeah, it's like your presence is primary and your focus is on that. And everything else that arises is just, oh, well, that's interesting. And, if you're not giving it the touch or whatever, then it's just like, oh, okay. You know what? And then, but the primary attention is somewhere else, which is in the self, or
Exactly.
it's in the prior to because the thoughts arise after, you are prior to whatever shows up.
Yeah, and again, at the deepest sense, like Maharaj says, the ultimate truth, prior to beingness, nothing is there. And this appearance is in the nothing and appears for a time. But that appearance is so that you can use this illusory body to sense that presence, be the knower of that sense of presence, identify yourself in a real sense, so that when the appearance is not, you know you are. And that's it. So anything that's occurring inside this presence, inside the appearance, just won't have a bite. You may still go through different various things. Your daily activities are not going to stop. That's why Maharaj all the time says, do your job, do your duties. Your daily activities are not going to cease. They're still going to be there. But they won't be pressuring you to have a self-conscious or to pressure you back into body knowledge, because you'll remain with yourself, the inward seeing from where the entire world is projected, and no fear, no desire, nothing. You're just totally formlessly aware, proceeding through the scenes with no specific outcomes or desires of any kind, because there's no desirer or person desiring an outcome.
Or trying to avoid an outcome as well.
Or trying to avoid, exactly. Mm-hmm. No pain and pleasure principle is activated because there's no you. Like Maharaj says, that formless sense of presence, just I, existence without adding anything, staying with that. Just like first thing in the morning, they always say, first thing in the morning, you feel your existence without anything. And that's the reality. Then you start to understand and recognize, I'm this person in a world, I need to get ready for work and all this kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. But you, in truth, could remain with your existence with nothing added on, just I, and you'd still have your breakfast and take a shower and go on your train ride or your commute in your car or whatever, start your day, but you don't have to have a you in your day. You can just have the day without you.
Yeah, I found it's very nice to be without me.
Exactly. Because you're an extra add-on that's not needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, sometimes it just happens like spontaneously. You'll be somewhere and all of a sudden there's just the observing of what's there with no judgments, no desire for it to be anywhere else. And it sort of lifts, it feels like a lifting of the judging mind, where it just kind of allows everything to be the way it is. And then you sort of see things from a different perspective, because you're not, I never realized how much the judging mind does that. And when it lifts, there's no problem. There's just like, oh, wow, that's happening.
Yeah, because just like a toy that says batteries not included, body not included.
Yeah.
You're there, but there's no body included. There's no self-consciousness with body knowledge flowing or anything. You're just here, formlessly aware, like you were just describing. You're enjoying your selfless self without anything needed. No body included. No ego, mind, intellect is needed in the moment for anything.
Right.
There's no I am somebody else being created. And you're not even feeling the touch of body, which you can still use and feel the touch of a body, okay, but then the body consciousness is not there. You're just using the instrument, enjoying yourself without thinking, without experiencing yourself. And like we said, basically just walking through the, taking pictures without ever going to develop them. Just take the pictures in the moment, enjoy fully the moment, but without you in it, and without wanting more, or without wondering or thinking or any of these sort of things.
Yeah.
Nobody included.
With me, there's still, like a tendency to do self-evaluation. Like, for instance, if I react badly, or like in my opinion. And again, it's basically, I guess it's just watching that whole scenario float down the river. Whatever comes down the river, just just disengage. Basically, it's whatever it is. I mean, it can be, I know Ranjit used to always say, you murder someone, you didn't do it. You may go to the gallows, he used to always say, but you didn't do it. So anyway, but basically, it's just,
Murdering.
but anyway, just basically, whatever comes down that river, just let it. Again, it can be anything, anything.
And like
it's
we
all,
talked about last week, checking in with your own inner master. Oh, master, this is happening, but I know it's not happening. It seems that my attention is going away. And you said, and this is very, very helpful to touch base with your own inner master. And when something is happening, you say, okay, remain with myself with self. The world is absolutely illusion. Remain with myself with self. Mantra, bhajans, all these things. But if you're talking about inquiring inside, this is okay in a sense that it's as if Maharaj is standing right next to you, so to speak, and you're communicating. Of course, Maharaj is your inner self, and as long as you believe yourself to be a body, you'll see him as the body standing there. But the truth is, it's that inner dialogue with your selfless self, with the master's teachings. Like you said, Ranjit Maharaj says this, and Ramakant Maharaj says this, and it's a dialogue, because all of those masters are your own selfless self. And when you start dialoguing with your own selfless self, the eklava comes in, and again, it's, okay, this is happening, and I'm remaining with my selfless self. Mind, ego, intellect. No. This is a body consciousness thing. I know. This is body knowledge, because I used this body and to acquire this knowledge, that I believe that this person that I am had acquired this knowledge. Okay, that's gone. Oh, I'm lost in thinking. I go back with my selfless self. I remain with my selfless self. And talking to the master all the time internally, this dialogue where you're literally, as if you're in front of Maharaj, every single moment something's coming up and you're asking the question and getting the response. And as you do this more and more, your selfless self is going to respond to this. Atma Navidam Bhakti, or something like that. Maharaj talks about this all the time. This is the highest thing of self-inquiry within oneself as the selfless self. And not self-inquiry like, who's thinking this or something like that, but literally like speaking to the master and asking the questions, because there's enough in you, enough knowledge, that this knowledge can come forth in the form of the inner master presenting it in the moment.
That's very true, because that happened this week, actually. Some things that I've heard before, like from Ramakant, from Ranjit, Siddha Rameshwar, just came to my mind while I was.
Absolutely.
And I did the kind of like the dialogue, as you said, from last week, we talked about that with the, just dialoguing with the inner master. And I know that, the face that's put onto that inner master could be Ramakant, could be Ranjit, could be Siddha Rameshwar. These are all, like Ramakant says in his book, Selfless Self, the spirit takes the form of whatever master, but that's really yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's really huge. That combined with mantra, going throughout your day, complete faith in yourself, complete faith in the master, And like you said, in whatever form Master may be appearing, and it's an internal, just dialoguing in every moment, rather than creating an I am somebody else and an idea that this is actually occurring or this is very serious. I remain with my selfless self, communicating with my inner master, so to speak, and getting the answers, and just feeling like, okay, now that in satsang is really powerful, because that's the true satsang. As Maharaj has said, the true satsang is with your selfless self. You're in the company of saints when you're in the company of your selfless self, and continuously inviting the attention and speaking and listening and putting it into action and moving in this very beautiful way as Eklava, pulling the arrow and hearing the master. Oh yes, put your hand a little bit lower. Okay, this is good. Boom. Oh, good job, my boy. All of this kind of stuff, it's the same. And the story of Eklava shows that he became the best archer, even better than Arjuna, because of this simple process of complete faith and trust in the master. And even though it was a statue that couldn't speak, the faith and the devotion and the inner dialogue was so powerful and so strong that it made such an impression that the selfless self just moved everything exactly as it's supposed to be. It's a powerful thing.
You know, it's just working with the conviction that we're selfless self now.
Yes.
Not tomorrow, not in a week or not 2 weeks. Now, it's just the ego, the intellect keeps interfering with that, but it's staying with that particular side of the equation. That's the conviction. It's just staying there. No matter what comes down the river, that's where you stay basically. With that conviction.
And remember, Nisargadatta Maharaj, when he talked about, he went to his guru, and his guru told him, you're not what you take yourself to be. You're this selfless self. You are that. And that's it. And Nisargadatta Maharaj, in his explanation, said, I just believed him. I had no reason not to. So then I tried to put it into my experience, and I acted and behaved as if I am that. I am that I am. And all of this that I thought I was, I am not. So now I just put that into action. And he faced a lot of challenges, like Ramakant Maharaj described a lot of the challenges, but he had complete faith and trust in his master. Ramakant Maharaj is your own selfless self that came to you in the manifest form because you're believing that you're in a form. So you needed a form to tell you, but it's your own self that has told you, listen, you are not this. The entire world appears on your spontaneous presence. So when you're involved in a daily activity, this is known. My master has said, because the mind wants to say, oh, but if you don't behave this way, or if you don't try to really, take control of the situation, it's going to be a mess. But that's not true. My master said, I am selfless self. I behave like Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God, Master, which are labels for that spontaneous presence that I am. All of this is appearing on my spontaneous presence. And the world is absolutely illusory. Maharaj has said this. And see, I take Maharaj's experience as well, because he shared how in the beginning, he didn't know if this was correct, but he put it into practice. He had faith, he had trust. And the more faith and trust that you have, the more faith and trust yourself, the self will kind of build more and more and more, because like we said, you're experiencing the world based on your ideas, concepts, and beliefs you may be holding about yourself in any given moment. That's how you're perceiving the projection. So by you, just like complete trust, faith, then it clicked, and that's it. So he has gone through this experience and let you know that, and see, on the other side of being completely in the selfless self all the time, that's the natural state. And those that have gone that way have come back and said, anyone can do this because it's only one. You're believing that it's a whole bunch of separate folks on a separate journey, and it's just not. When you listen to the master, they have gone through these stages. They've overcome their doubts. They've gone through experiences where they could have turned and been like, whoa, this seems really like I need my attention. Or I go through this with mantra. I go through this with complete faith and trust in my master. I know that this master is guiding me perfectly, and the outcome is my own selfless self, complete awareness of my own selfless self. And then, of course, the conviction, oh, so that I. And because Siddharmeshwar Maharaj told Nisargadatta, Nisargadatta told Ramakant, Ramakant has told you. Just putting it into practice. One moment it pops up, okay, and you involve your inner master. The inner dialogue starts occurring. All answers are within you. Even the answers that are coming from Maharaj are within you.
Right, because there's only one.
Exactly. You have to convince yourself this is true, and it's true, because all those that have said that it's true, and that who have now convinced themselves that it is true, are living in that way so that they can express to you that all you have to do is know it's true and have that conviction.
And the living is the proof.
Exactly. In your everyday occurrence, by turning to your selfless self and away from the ideas and beliefs and concepts that you're holding through mind, that you are this body and that these things are occurring around you, you will see. As Master says, take one step forward, he takes the other. And it's true. In the next moment that something appears really, really, really serious, know that you are the selfless self and that the entire world is arising on your spontaneous presence. That except yourself, there's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no Master. And in that moment, know this. Know this to be true and take that step. And see how the world is projected on your spontaneous presence, and the situation that you thought was one way was not, and was only there for you to guide yourself to your final destination, which is your own selfless self.
It seems that normally, normality to me is like belief in logic, and I kind of am doing that right now, but also I see the possibility of not doing that too, of not believing that normality is even here, or that I have to follow logic as I always have, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, logic, prior to beingness, there was no logic. After leaving the body, there'll be no logic. How you are prior to beingness and how you will be after leaving the body is the reality. And these things that are appearing as the reality are only for a time. And they're there so that you can use this illusory body in this illusory world to know yourself in a real sense. So that when the illusory body and illusory world are beginning to fade through the body, you're leaving the body, you know that you are. You're not dying. You were never born. For a time, you attached, spirit clicked with the body, and you said, I. And then this journeyless journey, because you never left, all is unmoving, formless, attributeless. And for a time, you believed that you had attributes and that you were moving and that you were within form. But now you know, oh yeah, this formless sense of presence, I'm the knower of this. So when this body form and this illusion and all of this is gone, it's the same as waking up from a dream, that the entire world just whoop, links out. But you always are. But there won't be any instruments to know yourself, which is why it's important that you don't waste time and you know yourself in a real sense through the illusory body in the illusory world. And then you kind of step back from that, knowing that when you wake up, you are, and the world never was and never has been. And that attached to the body was there prior to the body, and will also be there after the body, because it came into, it clicked, just like they use the example of fire. You're clicking with the fire. Boom, fire's there. Boom, fire's not there. But it doesn't go anywhere. The fire doesn't die. Fire's everywhere, meaning presence is everywhere. Presence is everywhere in all things. It clicks with the body in the illusory world for a time to know yourself in a real sense. And when this body, when you're leaving the body in this final breath, you'll observe that, and that'll be the last thing. There's no more observing of anything, because there's no instruments other than yourself. You no longer have the instrument of illusion to use an illusory body to measure yourself in a real sense. But you always are. And logic, like you said, in order to click with a body, there had to be something prior to click with that body. The fuel and flint in a lighter creates fire. No fuel, no flint, no fire. But fire is always there. So in this illusory appearance, you know yourself in a real sense as the one that was prior to the illusion and after the illusion. And the illusion was in the middle and appeared for a time. It appeared very real, but after you know yourself in a real sense, there's no way it could have been real. Just like the dreamer. The dreamer's dreaming the dream that they're inside this dream, and the dream appears real until waking up. You know, you could have a nightmare and really feel like, oh my God, this is really terrible. I am not enjoying this experience at all. This is horrible. And then when you wake up, you're like, oh, phew, it was just a dream. And in a similar sense, you behave in this way because you know that this consciousness, which has appeared on your spontaneous presence, is creating the dream world and the waking state. Neither is true. You, the selfless self, have never moved, have never had any attributes added. You're everything. But being everything, there's nothing other to know yourself. In the illusion of otherness, you can know yourself as that oneness. And even oneness is not quite right, because if you say one, then there's automatically a belief that there's more than one. So it's just that.
It's like logic has a way of directing the conviction, the belief, and the trust to itself. But logic doesn't have a self, because logic is coming from the self. It's not. So somehow it turns it into its own self, and that's where my usual conviction goes as far as believing what is real. But I'm starting to see, you know, that reality is totally wordless, or free from logic, from everything, from the world, whatever. Reality is, you know. Of course, I'm using a word, placing a word on reality, which isn't really anything. but yeah, it's just it's like logic is there maybe to give us, like, that's part of the world that helps or gives us the ability to know our being in a real sense. But logic is not It's an ability to make a contrast or something.
Again, that is so much thinking process of going on. Just to think this, logic requires mind, ego, intellect, all of which came along with the body, none of which you are. That eliminates logic right away. Logic and thinking and all this is just blown away with that one statement. Mind, ego, intellect came along with the body, and you're not the body. You were not the body. You're never going to be the body. You're not going to remain the body. Body is not your identity. In order to have logic, you need a mind, ego, intellect. So that blows that away. It's 400 times removed from yourself. So no need for this. Words are even 4 or 5 times removed from yourself because you need body, you need mind, ego, intellect. And that's why you are the formless, the motionless, the reality on which all of this appears. And you need to have a body and a mind, ego, intellect to have any kind of inquiry, to have any kind of anything. Because
well, that's what I'm trying to say. It sets up the possibility of a contrast or something.
The formlessness would be the lack of all these things.
As contrasted to what we normally experience.
Well, I mean, again, there's not really an experiencer, because an experiencer would have to have mind, ego, intellect to start to remain and say, this is how it was, this is how I want it to be. And an experience is then created based on a memory. And in order to have memory, you have to have mind, ego, intellect. And mind, ego, intellect came along with the body by form of self-consciousness or body knowledge. But you remove yourself from that. You're not that. So when you know yourself in a real sense, formlessness can't think. Formlessness can't do anything. Formlessness is, there's no ability to say, oh, I could think this or work this out. Formlessness would need to use the instrument of body, mind, ego, intellect in order to form a thought, in order to have logic. And logic, you need to compare and contrast with 2 different things, which you wouldn't be able to do, because in formlessly aware of your own self, there isn't a you, so there can't be other. So automatically, all duality is blown away. Formlessly aware, there's no you, there can't be other. In order to have an other, you have to relate it to a you. You have to have a position from this position to this person to that person, this object to that object. If you're formlessly aware and remain with yourself, the self, just knowing yourself in a real sense, there won't be otherness, because there won't be a position from where to see that otherness. You follow? Oh, I just noticed that I don't have, normally I have Maharaj sitting right next to the computer here, and in these moments of silence, I just look over at the picture, and then, but I don't have him here today. I forgot to put him by the computer. So sorry about that, Maharaj.
Well, he's behind you.
Yeah,
No, I know, and I can see him if I look inside the screen and see Maharaj in the back. But I just like to have, like, right there, you know, just to, in these moments when I can just kind of check in formlessly with the presence of the master in that way.
Yeah. I used to have Ramana Maharshi's picture when I was at work, and people would say, "Who is that old man sitting on your desk?"
my grandfather.
My first spiritual father.
Did he have any shirts?
Yeah, at my work, I have, as a matter of fact, it's in a cubicle like this, and I have the ashram. When I was in India, I have the picture of the ashram there. I have all the masters there. I have a picture of Maharaj over here, and then the picture of me sitting at Maharaj's feet. And then on my computer stand, I have Maharaj bowing. So, and that helps throughout the day too. You know, things are going, and before you take a night, and Maharaj says this, to take pictures of the ashram so that you can remind yourself. It impresses upon your selfless self. It's very great.
Yeah, I guess you help me see what I'm doing is I'm trying to use logic to expose logic, I guess. And
Yeah, but again, don't know. I mean, you do as you wish, but the mental process for my own self, I don't engage mentally unless it's something like, oh, you know, somebody would like me to at their house Thursday at 5 o'clock, and then briefly I engage mentally and put it in my phone that I'm supposed to be somewhere at 5 o'clock. But I, you know, engaging mind, ego, intellect is a dangerous game because you can get lost so easily. Like we're talking, when you're having horses, and the horses seem to be behaving very nicely, but any little thing that can spook them, that can distract you from the reality, and those horses start to gallop, and you're galloping along right with them.
yeah, it's like where does my interest go? Where is my interest? Yeah.
Exactly. Remaining formlessly aware, remain with yourself the self. And in those times where you want to engage mind, then speak to your inner master, the way we just talked about, that inner master dialogue. Master, I want to talk about logic, this and that. And oh, wait a minute, I know that you said mind, ego, intellect, you want to use them sparingly. Like I think Maharaj says, like pepper, or like pickle. That's what he says. You want to use it sparingly, like pickle. You know, mind, ego, intellect are nice instruments, but they can easily take you for a ride. That chariot, you're riding along, everything's nice, and then at some distraction, something happens, and you lose your attention from the reality. And now you're fighting the horses. And see, now you've created an I am somebody else that wants to get back to that selfless self state. And that's the duality in big time. And those horses just drag you along. So you want to remain with your selfless self, not engaging mind, ego, intellect. Even at work, you don't need to engage mind. You know, you're sitting there, you're doing this. Okay, you might have to think about a situation or a problem, but everything is just like you pick up the water, drink the water, put the water back down. So engaging mind, ego, intellect is saying, okay, what's the process of this water going down my throat? And will this bottle be enough to quench my thirst? Or will I need another bottle? How many bottles of water do I have in the refrigerator? And this is that mind, ego, intellect starting to turn.
It's like an engagement that becomes a marriage, and then you can't get out of it.
That is correct, yes. So divorce yourself and keep with your selfless self.
There's got to be that real strong conviction that nothing is true, because there's that sort of emotional connection that pulls you in. And I know that
Master said
yeah,
nothing's true.
yeah. Siddhar Rameshwara Maharaj once said in his, I think you mentioned it, about the tamarind pod. You know, like if you take a tamarind pod, like if an artist carves it and you look at it, your mouth can begin to water because there's this natural reaction. But if you know it's just a carving, it's not a real tamarind pod, then you will not have that attraction. And it's just knowing that is really not true. It's just, and it takes a lot of convincing, I guess, or one convincing oneself. I mean, life teaches that. I think for many people, life teaches us that too. And indirectly, a lot of people, as they grow older, realize, you know, they see through everything almost, you know. But I mean, with the master there, they're just saying from the get-go, it's just all carte blanche. It's all basic. It's not true, you know.
Exactly.
Even my mother's like 91 years old now, and she in her later years she's got much more easygoing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just not taking the touch of all these things. And see, that's the reality. The unreality is trying to take the touch and believing that you have to get rid of these things in order to get with your natural state. But it is no. You remain with your selfless self and all these things fade. That's why you don't have to try to detach from anything, Detachment will be automatic. I think they talk about the fact that if you're detaching because you want peace or something like that, then that's like Rajas detachment or whatever. But the highest detachment is when you see that there's nothing that is of interest, that there's nothing that you need or want because you're formlessly aware. You remain with your selfless self. All these things are appearing on that spontaneous presence. So detachment is automatic. There's no attachment to these passing things. Like when we talked about in the beginning, the river that's flowing, you see something and you just, okay, it's gone. And then another thing and it's gone. And another thing and it's gone. Excuse me. But you're not like running down the river. There's not something that's so intensely interesting for you that you're running along the bank of the river watching it the whole way. And yet, when you get involved with the thought, that's what you're doing. You're standing at the bank of the river, and then you see maybe, I don't know, a specific stick or something that catches your interest, and you begin running along the side of the river, watching this thing, totally carried away. And when you see a thought coming, and you jump on that thought, and you say, this is an important thought for me, then you are running along the riverbank, watching this passing thing, but you want to stay and remain with it. You don't want it to pass. You want to hold on to it because you have perceived some value with an I am somebody else that wants this something. And if you could just put a mental image of yourself running along the river instead of allowing things to pass, you pick on something and run along to it. It's a ridiculous thing, yes? I mean, imagine this. Just picture this in your mind. You're standing at the river, you're very peaceful, everything's good. Something passes and suddenly you're like, whoa, I have to see this thing more. And you're running along the side.
It's pointless fascination.
Exactly. And that's the same with the thoughts. A thought comes in and it attaches to you. You activate this thinker that we're speaking about because you're thinking about this thought and how important it is. And you want to activate this thought into an action to get some kind of benefit. And therefore, you are running alongside the river. You've been carried away by this thought. And you're not paying attention to yourself anymore because you're running alongside the river or you're being carried along with this thought. That actually, in truth, if you were to stand back and just observe the thought, you would see that it has no interest at all. It's just that an I am somebody else has been created, that a desire has been created to grab this thing. You want to activate this thought into an action because there's a desired result from this action that you think you're creating. And in reality, you're just running alongside the river, observing this stick.
Probably it's good to take a step back and see the whole, the mind, the ego, and the intellect is part of the junk flowing down the river.
Exactly. It's the process.
Yeah.
Maharaj says they're functional organs, and again, they came along with the body. If you remain in your selfless self, formlessly aware, then the touch of body won't really be impressed. You'll be using the body to do this and that, but that impression that this is my body and my body relating to other bodies and my body relating to other things, there won't be an interest because there's no you. There isn't an other. There's no you, so there's no point of reference for anything. Literally, scenes are passing in front of you, and you don't even want those to stop or speed up or slow down because there's not a desirer here. Scenes are passing, and you remain formlessly aware with your selfless self, knowing that all these scenes that are passing are appearing on your spontaneous presence. You are ultimate truth. And all of this is just in the appearance, in the nothing, for a time. Your job, only job, so to speak, is to know yourself in a real sense. And then enjoy. Just, duality then is, okay, in the scene, I'm doing this thing, da-da-da-da-da, whoop, like we talked about the King Lear. Okay, I'm acting like King Lear, then enjoying this King Lear role for a time. Or enjoying this John role for a time. But knowing that it's a passing thing. I don't have any dogs in the fight, so to speak. Things are coming and going. There's no John here. No John that says, oh my God, no, unacceptable. I will not accept that. And anything that's happening is in reality, it's there. So only thing is this mind, this sense of a me that doesn't enjoy what's occurring in front of me in the moment and creating an I am somebody else that's not enjoying the experience. But without an I am somebody else, there is no experience. Which goes back to the mouse. The mouse is not enjoying his mouse existence, but you're not a mouse.
I think when Nisargadatta Maharaj was dying of, I think it was throat cancer. I'm not sure what it was, but you know, I read that he was in great pain, and I don't know if he wished something different. Or I don't think he did actually. He just said, "This is the play," and he just took it as it was, basically, without wanting to be to die quicker or wanting to have the pain go away or whatever. You know, just. I mean, that would be a challenging situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He said he gave the pain to his beingness and he had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the pain is being experienced by this beingness and I'm not this beingness. And he had such a resolution and such a conviction that that again, I remain with my selfless self on this spontaneous presence. A body seemingly is there with feelings and all of this. And he said, I remain prior to beingness and I give this disease to my beingness.
Right. Yeah.
I am not affected by this disease, even though, yes, I'm sure there was pain, but he had naturally separated himself from the pain as saying, this pain belongs to my beingness that I am not. And yeah, that's some conviction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that's actually accurate because I have heard from someone who knew him at that time that he was receiving pain medication before his
Right.
death.
But I mean, he was in pain, but he has said, and you can look in the books, he says that he has given this pain and this disease over to his beingness, which he is not.
I think the medication was just part of the flowing that, you know, just the whole, the drink, just the flowing, basically. They did the same thing with Ramana Maharshi. You know, he had something on his arm, I think, a cancer or something. And, I mean, everyone was trying to do everything for him. He just let it all just take place. He just kind of like, you know, let it all happen. And it was part of the whole, you know, like King Lear thing, the whole kind of play that was going on, basically.
Nisargadatta Maharaj said, this disease is occurring to my beingness, which I am not.
Right.
This pain is occurring to my beingness, which I am not. And see, if he would have denied pain medicine and said, I don't need pain medicine, then there's an I am somebody else being created that's saying, I don't want this pain medicine. But he's allowing doctors to give, okay, doctors say, take this, do this. But he has said clearly that this pain, this disease is occurring to my beingness, which I am not. That's conviction. That's powerful conviction of saying this disease of cancer, which doctors say I'm dying of and there's pain, but I give this disease of cancer to my beingness and I remain as I am. I remain with my selfless self, observing the beingness on which this disease is appearing.
Right.
That's fine. I just think it's important to mention that he was not acting as though it's important not to make that statement inferring he did not receive medication, that he was above that, because initially that was the impression being given by the words.
Yeah, no, he just, and again, I've read like, it's like 2 or 3 different books that this statement is in, where he says, this disease is appearing on my beingness, which I am not.
I got that.
Isn't what you're saying is that the disease happened to the body,
Exactly.
and there's no identification with the body.
That's correct. And I think, like I said, it's in, I'm pretty sure it's in I Am That, and what's the other one? I forget, but there's like 2 or 3 books where Maharaj states this, you know, because people ask him about this, and he just says, you know, this disease, this is appearing to my beingness, and I am not that beingness, so I'm not involved in that. And again, if he were to say, I don't want to take medicine, I'm above this, then there's an egoic sense of self created that wants to do something other than what it is. But he just allowed things to come and go as they were. Doctors would come and look at him and give him medicine or whatever. And when a devotee would say, oh, but what if we pray and make you have a longer life? He said, I could drop the body right now and it wouldn't make any difference. So what is a longer life going to do? I'm not the body. See, that's the conviction. I'm not the body. Whether the body is here or not makes no difference to me. I know myself in a real sense, and that is not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. Anything occurring to the body is a temporary thing, because that body I am not. And I remain with that, formlessly aware of that sense of presence. And I know body is just an instrument and comes and goes. Even the sense of presence is an instrument, because it needs the instrument of body to be sensed. And then once this is gone, then presence is gone as well. But I am. And I won't know I am, except that I know I am when I'm using the illusory body in the illusion to know myself in the real sense, knowing that I can't be cut. I don't come and go. I can't be burned. I can't be buried. I was never born, and I will never die.
The same thing happened with Ranjit Maharaj when he was close to passing. A lot of the disciples really didn't want him to go, so they were just doing everything. I mean, they were actually, you know, like intruding on, I think, you know, just getting him to the hospital. He didn't want to go, and, you know, things of that sort. They were just all trying to keep him around as long as possible. So I think that, and I think it was with the same case with Ramana Maharshi. All of his disciples were just, you know, want to keep him there as long as they can. So they're just letting it happen as it's happening. Of course, they couldn't change it anyway, but it just is the way it's flowing.
Exactly. And they're not even disappointed that, my God, you haven't gotten any of my teachings, because you worry about the body and into this body. They're not saying even like, what the hell? Like, I'm telling you, you're not the body, and yet you're so concerned about this body leaving, but I've already told you we're all one. I can go anywhere. So even that, it's just like, okay, this is happening, this is occurring, because it's known that it's just the selfless self with ideas and beliefs and concepts about itself that's seeing and saying, oh, I wish this one would continue. But like Maharaj has said, the space in the bathroom, the space in the kitchen, the space in the ashram, when the walls come down, the space is space. The walls appear to be dividing that space.
Yeah, you know, I think it goes to Rupert Spira is also talked about that, and I read several of his books, but one of the quote that really lingers on, and he said, picture your room. said, and you see all this furniture here and there, all these objects. And what you are the space between these objects.
Absolutely. Yeah, really great exercise. If you want to see that and really sense that, and your selfless self will enjoy this exercise, I'm quite sure, is when you're in like an area where there are other people, start to envision like this room is you could even say your mind. This room is your mind, or inside your dream even, so to speak. And then you start to see that all the people, the space is allowing for all this activity and all this stuff, but it's all inside you. And you begin to see how all these forms are moving about. And you also notice that this form is inside you. And you just start to see that, and you can see the space. Like, try to perceive the space more than the objects in the space, knowing that within this room, or within this hallway, or within this wherever you happen to be, all of that inside is the consciousness of your mind, and all of this is being created from that. This will give I've done this little kind of exercise, and it's very helpful. It's very nice. There's something in you that will enjoy this. That you see that, like, wherever you are. For my own self, it's at work, and it could be in the cafeteria, and you're just observing the space and knowing that this room filled with 20 or 30 people is all occurring inside yourself, including this object that is inside that space that is occurring inside yourself. And
It's
pay
like
attention to the space and not the objects.
Yeah, isn't that like the dream world where everything that appears in the dream is you?
Well, this is the truth, but you're starting to notice the dream consciousness in the waking state.
Yeah.
By doing this exercise, you will perceive that the waking state and the dream state are exactly the same. They're all occurring inside the bubble of this illusion. And this bubble of illusion is, you know, like I said, you're in the cafeteria, there are 4 walls, and there's 20 or 30 people, and they're all moving about. You pay attention to the space, perceiving it as in the bubble of illusion. This is in the bubble of illusion, all the activity that's going on, all the speaking that's going on. The people who are trying to decide what they want for breakfast are your own self, inside your own self.
So,
It's a powerful exercise.
yeah. So when I'm, for example, in this room, lying in my bed, and it's my bedroom, and lying there and just contemplating or looking at this, seeing that how I'm space in this room, let's say, then furniture, without saying people. So what you're then saying is you identify myself in that space, but you are also saying that all of this is also going on in my head, right? That's what you're saying.
In a way, in that way, yes.
But if I would touch it, there would be a physical object there.
Yeah, same as in dream.
Yeah, but dream to me is something different. I can never really relate to the dream things that you guys are talking about. But I'm just taking me. I am now sitting here in this sofa now, and there's the television and there's a lamp. I'm sitting in Trisha's room. There's a exercise machine. All of these things are now in this room, right here, right now.
Yes.
And then the space that just is everywhere in this room
Is you.
Yeah, but
And that's the point of view that you want to be looking through, not the limited object where you say, I am in this room. This room is in myself.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. So all this room, including my, where am I then?
You are in this analogy, you are the space, formlessly aware of all the objects that are appearing in the space, and for a time believing that you're this limited object sitting on the couch, when in reality, you're the space. That's why with this exercise, you pay attention to the space and know that Trish and this body that you're believing that you are, and everything in it, and all the conversation and all the everything is in the bubble of the illusion that you are.
Yeah, I understand that, and I can see that, but I can also touch
They've already addressed it. You said,
that this table is
said that.
an object. It's
Yes.
not, yeah,
But
but
that's also being, it's manifest, just again, as a dream. If you're laying down at night sleeping and you're dreaming, you're at school or you're at some place and that you're eating at a table and you're eating food,
Already been brought to.
you're eating something, you're tasting something, you're feeling this table, you're moving around. It's the exact same thing.
right, but I'm talking about right now, right here. Right
Yes.
now, right here, we have a table. I touch this table.
Yes.
Real.
In the bubble of illusion, everything is appearing to you real. Yes, of course, because you're using.
But I'm touching it. Why won't it be real when I'm touching it?
Because again, it's in, you're the space. All of this is occurring inside of
I know
that.
the space, but in this room are these various objects that I perceive. That
Yes.
you understand that perspective, that it is really all inside me, inside my mind, but nevertheless, there's a reality to them as well. Because
Inside the illusion, yeah. Every time that's why you have this illusory body, so you can know yourself in a real sense inside the illusion. The illusory appearance is only for a time. Again, we go back to dream. You're saying that you don't understand the dream, but imagine you're dreaming yourself right now. In that, when you go to bed at night, you can be, again, sitting at this table. You can tap on the table. Try it in your dream. You'll see you're walking in the street. Maybe you're swimming and you're feeling the water. You're eating in your dream and you're tasting as if it's real, but it's not. And that's the same thing that you're talking about now. How can I be in the illusion and this illusory table appears to be real? Because it's in the illusion. And inside your dream, everything appears to be real, although it's not. And inside this illusion, everything is appearing to be real because one thing, you're taking yourself as a form instead of seeing yourself as this formlessness. And when you're inside the room and you're paying attention to the space, then the object that you're believing that yourself to be that's tapping on this table is just an object in space that you're moving. But then if Trish gets up and goes and gets you a glass of water, you also know that Trish is inside the bubble of illusion, as in actually is your own selfless self. All the activities that are occurring inside that room are occurring inside yourself. And the objects that are in that room are only your own self. Even though they'll appear, just like in a dream, they'll appear to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting about this gentleman saying about these people that was missing their teacher, missing their guru, because it is in form. You can really only miss another form. It's form missing another form. But I am this formless state in which you say everything is still, in which everything happens inside me. In other words, we go back again to what was very useful to me that you talked about several days ago, background. You just this background, observing everything happening. But yet, everything also is in the background. So, and I guess then at one, if you can say then that nothing really exists, but then everything exists in that which nothing exists in. You know, there's this nothingness and everythingness in a sense. Would you agree with that?
Again, the appearance and the illusion is appearing on the background of the nothing that you are. The appearance is a stirring inside the nothingness and appears for a time. And see this exercise, it's really beautiful. If you're looking and you're seeing the room, this room where Trish and I are in, but I is the room, is the space in the room, moving all of the objects around. And once you've kind of meditatively seen this, and know this experience, then you'll progress a little bit to more and more and more. Okay, now it's not just this room. Now we're on a bus, or we're in our car, and everything that's occurring inside. But then you start to see, okay, everything that's occurring inside this street, all the people and the car and myself are occurring inside myself. Or when you're at work, for my own self, like I said, the cafeteria, knowing that this form and all these forms are appearing inside that bubble of illusion that is arising from my selfless self, and all of this is that. When I then go outside, and this is when Maharaj says, if at all you want to compare yourself to space or sky, you see the sky, and you see an entire scene of maybe cars and people walking and a park over there, but you know that all of that is inside the bubble of illusion, that it's only the formlessness that's moving all of this about. And there's a joy in seeing this, in knowing that, see, it's no longer how this form is reacting. I am paying attention to the space, to the sky, to that I am, the presence that is everywhere, that all of this is occurring inside of.
I understand that. But then I can also say that you are part of that illusion as well.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah. All of this appearance, it's actually nothing. This John, this Andrew, Kathleen, Trish, Keith, all of this is appearing in the nothing for a time. It will pass. That's why you use this illusion now to know yourself in a real sense. Once you know yourself in that formlessly aware, I am the knower of the sense of presence. In presence, all of this is appearing on. When this body goes, it won't matter. That was prior to being this, before spirit clicked with the body, and once spirit has, quote, unclicked with the body or left the body, that I am. This appearance was only for a time. It comes and goes, and everything in this illusory world eventually will disappear. And you can again use the exercise like Maharaj says, pull the presence out of this body and out of all these bodies, and you have a bunch of dead bodies. The presence clicks with these bodies, and suddenly you have separate individual bodies, and yet it's one thinker, one speaker, one listener. And all of these bodies are occurring inside that bubble of illusion, or this appearance of something in the nothing. The whole idea, know yourself. While you have a body form, know yourself in a real sense. Use this otherness, this instrument, to know yourself in a real sense. Remain with yourself. And because the entire world is projected from your spontaneous presence, all of these things will automatically start to, you take one step, master takes another. You take one step, master takes another. If you internally dialogue with yourself, similar to Eklava, and you continuously remain, and the faith and the trust just builds and builds and builds, and the conviction of, so that I. In the exercise of looking at all the people inside the space, but knowing that you're the space in which all of this is occurring in, again, that's a progressive step to getting to your own selfless self, where you're totally convinced that this body is an instrument and will not be, but you're not the body. You're not identified with the body, because you just know. I'm formlessly aware. The body is an instrument to know myself in a real sense. That's its job. That's, if you want to call it that. And even that, you don't need to know yourself in a real sense, but because you are. But it's just the fact that you know yourself in a real sense. And when the body is, you know, when you're in the hospice or whatever or something, and they're saying, oh, you're dying or whatever, you can just remain with your selfless self, remain with your selfless self, as we just talked about Nisargadatta Maharaj in his final days. The disease and the pain is occurring to the beingness. I remain with my selfless self. This body is an instrument that I, the selfless self, have used for a time. I used to call this body I, but now I know that if at all I want to compare, I compare myself to space or sky. Accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master. Nothing is there.
Check up on you and see if you're any better or worse or what.
Oh, it's 8:30 now.
Yes, it is. I think we have completed the the evening.
Drugs?
Okay.
Okay.
Drugs for?
I think
What?
Keith is talking to somebody else.
I know.
Somebody else, yeah.
Somebody else.
He's having a conversation.
Okay,
All
guys.
right, everyone. Have a good
Okay,
evening.
thank you. You have a nice evening. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.